I know we all had a real good time playing this game. A bunch of bullshit happened in it.
Yeah. Shout out to Ape Games for their super fast responses on our tweets.
Yeah. We had a lot of fun playing the game. We had a lot of fun communicating with you guys. So let's start it off. We played with a bunch of different setups. Did you guys find a setup that worked best for you?
As far as
Like choosing your magician, your assistant, and your starting trick.
Yeah. I tried a couple different things. I think going forward, I would most likely either stick with the manager.
Yeah, she's strong.
Yeah, because getting the early components together, you can have probably one really good trick or two competent tricks, pretty early on, or the assistant with the apprentice, because she gives you she's the fame bonus, right?
Yeah.
The 2 fame when she's backstage, that's one reason. And you've got 4 people working for you from the get-go, one of them being free. So I don't see in a situation where I want to start with engineer, unless there's some trick that I'm basing a strategy around that only gets, say, 1 prepare, or, it costs 2 to prepare, but you only get 2 instances for preparing, something like that. So I'll probably stick with either manager or assistant, just because it's either fame or money, and it's either, free components or a free worker from the get-go.
Yeah, I was kind of the same. The games where I did best, I started with one of those 2, and then immediately bought whichever one I didn't get. I think I didn't know it's too big of a difference either starting with the manager or starting with the assistant, and then buying the other one the first turn. Both games I did pretty well both times, but I think getting those 2, I definitely had my best games.
I think I had the most success with the assistant, and that was what I did on the last game we played. But that fame bonus is pretty clutch, and pairing that with if you get a starting trick where you can start off with the charges on there, and performing on the first round. My strategy was grinding to that 16 fame, or at least close enough to it to get that 16 level trick. And I thought that was a pretty good strategy. I wish we had another play so I could try to tweak it, because I didn't win because I wound up not being able to pay my guys.
Turns out that's important.
Yeah. But that fame grind, though, you got to be on it.
That turn 1 was... That last game was, holy shit, he's about to have a tier 2 trick.
Yeah.
Turn 2. Like, you don't even have to pay the difference. You've got the fame already. That was a really strong startup. And yeah, like you said, had you slightly tweaked it from there, you could have ran away with it easily. Yeah. Because none of us were even close to not only having the trick, but actually having it set up. I mean, you were on your way, man. That was nuts.
Yeah. I screwed the pooch in the later rounds, but that was, I think, a strong fame start is good, and the best way to get that is with assistant.
Yeah, I tried the first 2 games we played. I played with the engineer, and I do like the engineer's bonus. You get a Trickerion shard, and as long as you're not playing with magician powers, that actually kind of means something, because you can still use it for actions. You can still, even though you can only use it for 1 action, sometimes you need that Trickerion shard for an action. But in the end, he didn't really help me much. Besides getting me a lot of shards, I don't think there was. I think the last game was the closest game that I ever come to winning, and yeah, I had an assistant too. I only had an assistant. I didn't even have a manager with that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe other people have more luck with the engineer. I certainly did it in 2 games. I don't think anybody else picked them up except me.
And I had an engineer. It was pretty good. The simple fact is, this game is so long. There's so many strategies that we could go into that, there's so much more than we're even going to scratch the surface on in this show.
Yeah, that's true.
You would just have to. The engineer just seems like harder to pull off. You just have to know what you're going into. There's so many moving parts in this game. If you could,
I tried every time I had an engineer. I tried to do my absolute best where in the first round, both of those Well, obviously, the first trick I took, I always made it prepare, and the second trick I took with the engineer, I wanted him to have at least the right pieces with the first trick that I had, that I could prepare him at least that round too, so I could get both tricks out. That's how I tried to do it. I mean, it gave me moderate success. It seemed like I had a hard grind to 16. All except in that last game, but yeah, I had. It seems like I had better luck with the engineer, but it also, I mean, not with the engineer, with the assistant, but it also didn't help that the first game was regular game, second game was Dark Alley, third game was Dark Alley with magician powers, which just was bananas.
Two middle games both had everything.
Yeah, had everything.
And then kind of at the end, we kind of decided that magician powers they're neat. I enjoy them. I like the variants they bring, but there's combinations that could add for some busted starts or busted games.
Too much variance.
Yeah, you can get really lucky with what you end up drawing, and it can really skew things one way or the other, I guess. But again, there are a lot of different strategies and a lot of different ways to get points in this game. So you're never really out of it. You can make some huge turnarounds later on. Yeah, there can be some huge point swings in this game, especially towards the end. And once you've got, your 36 fame threshold tricks and you're pulling off those once, twice, every single perform and getting the bonuses, I mean, there's some big swings. So you're never really out of it.
And the Dark Alley prophecies totally change how you can play a certain round.
Yeah, just plan for those and hoping that nobody rotates that shit.
And those cards that you buy from the Dark Alley.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Some of those can really boost things in your favor as well.
Especially if there's one card called Festival of Magic, and where if nothing's going to get performed for you, you can have at least all your tricks. Everybody else gets their stuff performed too, but you get yours performed as well. Your tricks get performed on all cards as well.
Yeah, that works really good. I played that one time after shotgunning every charge of every trick, and that was a pretty good round for me.
And I played it wrong one time, and it led to my demise.
Thanks for all those points, Harley.
Yeah.
We all appreciate it.
Here I was thinking I was going to get a -1 to everybody. No. Mm-mm.
Well, we screwed that up on multiple points. Even in the last game, we're like, are we doing this right? Am I getting my bonuses for this shit?
Yeah, well, we got that figured out, finally, all together. Strategies.
It's really hard to say. It all depends on...
Well, what'd you use?
I used a different magician each time, I think. Or no, I think I had the first game I had Mechaniker, and the last game I had Mechaniker. I played a game with Gentleman, which I think is... Once we were doing the actual magician power, or their unique bonuses, I guess magician powers are something different. But using their bonus, he's got a good one. Anywhere you go, you're getting 2 fame, as long as it's not the theater. So I used him, and then I used...
Well, wait. His is you get a fame for each trick that you have, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then I started off with 2 tricks. So that's kind of, again, ties back into what am I going to use from the get-go. It depends on which magician I happen to be able to draw and what's going to benefit them from the start. So I wanted to start with 2 tricks ready. So the first thing I did was go learn a new trick, cheap one. And I had the assistant, so I actually had the components to do both. Even though they weren't great, I still had 2 of them, and he was getting everything setting up, and I was pulling fame off of just using him. But it just depends on what you have the opportunity to start with, which magician in particular, and what's going to add to their ability, I guess. But it's not all about them. But
okay, well, let's just say best strategy for the best round that you had out of what we played. Since, I mean, technically, yeah, you're right. We can't go over every strategy, but we used one strategy that we had at least the best round in a game.
Try to rush to 16 fame or as close as you can get to it.
Yeah.
Get to the tier 2 tricks because those bonuses are, I'm not going to say leaps and bounds better, but I mean, you've got some tier 1 tricks that are 0 fame, 2 coins, shit like that, and that's what you're starting with.
Yeah.
Whereas some tier 2 tricks are a 3 or 4, either or. Some even have a shard on top of that. They might be expensive, but there's nothing to stop you from getting them put together, turn 3. And having all the components, having them prepared, having everything ready to go turn 3. So I think trying to bum rush the fame, get as close to 16 so you're not paying too much for the difference, that'd probably be my starting strategy, I guess.
Yeah.
Get fame.
Yeah, I say first round, pay to advertise regardless of position. I mean, depending on if you need components. But I'd say pay to advertise. Make sure that the trick you picked is you have the components for, so it gets the automatic setup. And perform that round and make sure that all the charges on your tricks are out there. That way you're getting the fame. You're closer to 16. You may even, depending on if you had if you were able to get to the bank or something with your guy, you may even get to buy the level 16 trick on round 2. I mean, it's possible. It's really possible. If you're getting 2 from your trick, 2 from advertising, and 2 from your assistant, and then maybe if someone else performs that round, you're getting another 2 for your trick. I mean, you're already at 8. You're halfway to. Well, no, you start at 5. Yeah. So you're super close. That is, to me, getting to second tier tricks is where it's at.
The only one thing I want to bring up is what magician were you during when you got that big bum rush?
Great.
He was the gentleman.
Yeah, gentleman.
Was he the eye? Do you remember what trick?
Yes.
He
you
was the
used?
eye.
What trick did you use?
Read it to me.
Was it
I think it's the first one.
Enchanted Butterflies?
Whichever one gives 2 fame.
Well, there's 2 of them that give 2 theme
It's probably Enchanted Butterflies.
because it was the easiest.
Yeah.
Well, now not all of those tricks give big fame like that. In fact, that's the only one that gives 2 that's the easiest to set up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, while it's great to try to rush it, I tried doing the rush one time and it completely backfired on me.
Well, the rush I think is always possible when you have an assistant, because you can send someone out to buy your components and you can send the other scrub into the workshop to set it up. You just get that fame.
Yeah, I think I had pretty much the same general strategy the first couple of rounds, along the same lines, just doing everything you can to get fame. Anytime you have an option, choose fame over money. Always try to make links on and get shards when you're setting up your tricks. I always tried to perform the first round. It's not required, but among other things, I'll do everything I can the first 2 turns so I can turn 3 and 4. I can pop off with a couple of big performances with my tier 2 spells. So I'll try to get 16 fame, try to get all the components I need for that second tier spell, try to get a couple of extra, either another assistant or more apprentices, and just try to do everything I can to set up some big turns 3 and 4, and then use those. We'll talk about the later game strategy later, but use those turns to then set up monster scoring rounds in 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, I mean, even in the early game, you need to know where you're going late game. You need to, if you're playing Dark Alley, you need to know what the bonus is on the 36 card on the 36 fame trick you're going for. I had one that was 2 fame bonus at the end of the game for every level 2 component. So I just started buying level 2 components. I started maxing out my level 2 components, and it came in as a big swing for me. It didn't win me the game, because I screwed up in paying my guys, but it put me, I think, second when I was going to be last.
Yeah.
And something I tried to do every game is pick a line of spells that have shared components as much as possible, so you don't have to go back to the shop as much. Like the times where I did best, I had the same 3 spells. I had Linking Rings, Bullet Catch, and Automaton, all from whatever School of Magic that is.
The Mechanicer. That was my exact setup
Yeah,
on the
and
fourth game.
they have like basically 4 components total for all 3 of those spells. And if you have the manager, you can move, like, it's like 3 of each for the Automaton. All you need is like the gear, the oil, the rope, and the metal. I think that's all 4 of the components for all 3 of those spells. They all share stuff.
Move your expensive shit over there and you're set.
Yeah.
And holy crap, make sure you have enough slots for all your components. I got burned by that hard.
What are you gonna sacrifice? Ain't sacrificing nothing.
And this is gonna go. Oh no!
Yeah. Oh no! That was the best part of that. Yeah. If you don't perform, definitely set up a trick in the first round. No matter what.
I think the shotgun approach to setting up tricks is good too. Making sure if you have charges, get those charges out so you can A, set up the trick again, and B, someone perform your trick. Because you may have a round where you can't perform. You need to go work on something else. Well, if you have tricks out there, someone may link with you. If you have and also I'd say try putting your unless you're going to do the link, try putting not the some other symbol on the Trickerion shard part rather than your own. To make it easier for someone to link with you on that to get the shard.
Yeah, and not so subtly hint like, hey, you can make a link right here.
Yeah.
We could both benefit right here. And then you're going to be performing this performance card right here while I'm doing other shit.
Yeah. But yeah, that's I think that's because especially when you have those level 2 tricks, if you're just shotgunning them out there, it's still a pretty good bonus if someone's performing your trick.
Unless it's the red chick.
Oh, Lotus.
Yeah, and she wants to take your yield bonus.
And give you a negative.
Yeah.
Turns out you put it set up on Thursday, too, so you could shotgun all those tricks out.
Only to lose -1. Yeah, that's something else. That's an important factor that you need to realize. If you are in there setting up tricks, and you think that it's even possible for anybody to be coming to perform on a day, on a venue that you have at least one of your tricks, don't be in the -1 spot if it's your good trick, because you're going to take those negatives. But if you're not even there, you don't take the negatives. So be mindful of that too.
Yeah. That's where it's good. That's where it's good to use that extra action to set up 2 of your tricks on a card by itself, something that just came out or something like that. So there's a lot less advantage of someone else jumping in there. But it doesn't always work.
No.
Yeah, also try to synergize with the Dark Prophecy Pogs. Spin them around. You always get some actions in there in the Dark Alley. Spin them around. If you want to spin them around to your advantage, make sure you're the last person in the Dark Alley. Someone will come spin them around on you.
I'm going to undo your turn.
Yeah. Also, if you don't have somewhere for a scrub to go, I think a coin is worth sending them to the Dark Alley just to take a theater
Any
card.
card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think theater's pretty clutch, but any card is pretty good because it's worth something at the end of the game. And those plus actions in anywhere, but especially the theater, are
That's the only
pretty
way
good.
to get plus actions in the theater.
Yeah.
Unless something, alters that elsewhere. But yeah.
Yeah, just having, playing Dark Alley, you only have one copy of the workshop, one copy of every card except the theater.
Right.
So if you want to send, instead of having to burn shards or burn extra actions, just use one of those Dark Alley cards, send 2 guys to the workshop, set up 2 spells that turn instead of having to, just having that extra option of just sending them there, even if you don't use the card benefit, just having that extra actions on that particular space was pretty huge.
There were some times I was like, man, I wish I would have grabbed just a workshop card or a downtown something.
Yeah.
Send 2 guys to the bank, just anything like that. It doesn't hurt to have a couple of those spares. But the first 2 games we played with them, I didn't pick up any at all.
Yeah.
Not even the theater cards. And I realized, man, I should be grabbing these.
I think I was the only one to pick up any of those cards in the first game when we played with them.
Or I grabbed them at the very end when I realized, well, I'm not
There
doing
were
anything else with
points.
this guy. I'm going to get some points here. Like, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, one thing I was kind of the same way. I didn't really use them, mainly because I had just better actions elsewhere. What I wish I would have done in a lot of these games is get 1 extra apprentice and just send him to the Dark Alley almost every turn. Just because, for a lot of times, nobody's going there for several turns. So you go to the +2 action, get 2 free cards, basically. I wish I had just a Dark Alley guy almost every turn just to go there and get some cards or shift some prophecies around. Most of the time, I just felt like I didn't have enough actions to go there because I had more important shit to do. I wish I just had 1 extra guy to go there most turns. That would be the only thing I would kind of change or try to change on my strategy going forward.
That's why I think Assistant's best, especially when playing Dark Alley.
Yeah.
Because that scrub was my Dark Alley man a lot of rounds.
Yeah. He didn't cost you anything, just go.
Yeah.
I got a question. Why didn't you guys ever buy tricks outside of your magician? I did all the time. They linked up with with components wise of what I had, and I bought them so I could link with everybody else.
Same for me, at least. Most times when I wanted to go buy, the symbol wasn't there, or I would have to like gamble to try and roll the symbol I wanted if it was something outside of my school. So a lot of times I just played it safe and just like, yeah, I'm just gonna get this. Just doesn't matter what symbols are showing on the dice. So I mean,
yeah, I'd have to agree there. It's going to be 5 actions
Yeah.
to get something unless it's your school. So I'm looking for the components that are used within my school because it's just easier to put together that way.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, I did do it one game, and it made linking easier, but it was luck. What I was doing is I had a tier 2 from 2 different schools, and when I had the chance to get my tier 2, or actually it was a tier 1, I think I was this one round when I was playing engineer. I was able to get the extra trick, and so I think it was extra level 1 fame trick. But the thing is that it wound up not doing anything for me because level 1 tricks suck. Their addition, what they give you sucks. And if you are trying to get a level 2 trick off of somebody out of their school, well, it's possible they could be grabbing for it. I'd rather go with something that synergizes in my school just because it's easier to get.
Well, I mean, that's kind of true, but I always went for, because you look, okay, people at home, they're listening to this, but if you have, if you go to Board Game Geek, or you can get the booklet that come with the Kickstarter version of Trickerion that has all the spells, and you can look at this, and always the far right spells had the most components, and there were a lot of stuff that nobody ever took, but it synergized. It either synergized well, or it had a better payoff for me to go take it. So that, I mean, like a lot of times, like fishing in the air. I remember I took that. I took somebody's 36 far right trick. I mean, I didn't take them all the time, but if they were open, I took them. Especially if if my components lined up. I didn't go out of my way, but it just, the payoff was either better than my school because, I mean, you have to look. This it's not equal at all.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So I mean,
I think some schools are easier to get tricks from other schools to work.
that's true.
I think I wound up playing the Illusionist twice. I think 2 Chains, the escape artist guy, is probably going to be the best. I think he'd probably be the easiest to link other schools with because his spells don't use a bunch of components, at least from what I remember.
Yeah, he's pretty cheap overall as far as component cost and how many activations you get of your trick. I mean, most of them, I don't think they had 2 action points to get the trick prepared. And if they did, they were definitely, the better tricks.
Yeah.
Most of them are super cheap and you get a lot of activations, but then again, the rewards are kind of less too.
Yeah.
But if you're using his ability, then you can move those cheap tricks around and actually create the links after the fact, which nobody did. But if you've got a lot of tricks, you're going to be able to create a link somewhere.
Yeah.
And still get your linking bonus from it.
Yeah.
wonder if anyone's gone through and calculated the ultimate min-max for spells. Like the most, among all schools, the best line of spells you could go in with the most shared components and the least money you got to spend in the market to get the biggest yield. So I don't know. It seems like there could be some great combo that all share components that are all 3 different schools of spells, where you don't have to go to the market very much, but you get the most bang for your buck out of it. I don't know if anyone's done that, but that's something I thought about. But
I didn't.
That's something I thought about, but never wanted to even look at.
Yeah, Trickerion Moneyball.
Mine was more like, these pictures are the same. I'm going to get these 2. That's as deep as I took it.
Because I looked at that just on the same school, what shares components, but I never really flipped through it to see what was synergized with the other schools.
Yeah.
And then to even try and sync that up in a game would be kind of daunting. I don't know.
Well, you see, that's what I try to do when I went to other people's schools. Is whatever I had previously, if the components it shared with, those were the stuff that I was looking at that could go with whatever I was going to buy later on.
Yeah.
Cheap wise, I mean, some of them were asking you to buy level tier 3 goods, and man, that's It's a little rough,
Yeah.
especially if you got a special order and you need it right then.
I spent $12 on these 3 mirrors. Shit.
Oh, I can't pay my guys at the end of this.
No.
Oh, I was paying my guys. I was only taking -1 fame per coin when it was really supposed to be -2.
Oh, no.
Oh no. that had to be the absolute best. Oh, what are you gonna replace? I ain't replacing shit. Oh no. Oh. Yeah, so that's that kind of struck me as odd why nobody. I mean, other than the fact that, yeah, okay, it was gonna cost you a lot, especially for like a level 1 trick. You know, there's no reason to go do that. But I always took like 2s and 3s, and some of it was for the bonuses too. Like one of them I took for the bonus because every level 1 component gave me 2 bonus points or 2 fame. So I took somebody's 36 trick one time.
Yeah, I never veered out of my school. There's a lot of things I did not do in this game rather than do, like not picking up any Dark Alley cards. The first 3 games, I didn't hire any other additional people. I had my starting set up, and that's all I used the entire game. But it's valid. I mean, I wasn't getting ran over. I mean, I'd won once or twice, I think. And just with the starting setup, just pay my cheap $3 every round for those people and just put them to work. And there's a lot of valid strategies in this game and a lot of ways to put what you have together to get some points out there. Man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of moving parts, like he said.
Yeah, one game I completely screwed myself because I was trying to play the screw everybody over game, and the only person I really screwed over was myself. And I was trying to use Dark Alley cards to do it.
Cardboard karma. That's what that is. Don't
sure
do it.
was. Like the last game that I actually had some sort of traction, I was doing my absolute best. Like, okay, here's how my first round went. I got a high dollar trick. I sent I think the magician, him to go get everything else because he had all the actions that I needed. Because I also had to quick order something for a level 2. I think I put my my scum bum. Oh no, he probably went to. He stayed back because he had to prepare, and I had the assistant. So once the assistant went to go, I think. No, maybe she. Oh yeah. Okay, I got a trick. I got a second trick. The assistant went and got. The magician went and got all the. Went and got all the components. And then one scumbum stayed back to prepare the new trick. The other scumbum went to go set up 2. That was mine. But Zachary didn't perform. He just performed his own stuff. But I had 2 tricks set up in the first round. And then I started performing in the second round and set the 2 tricks up again. And that got me to 36 pretty fast. I had 4 tricks, 2 actual unique tricks set up on 2 different cards to be performed. And I think I took a Saturday spot. So, and I would have, and Zachary's point swing is what put him into second at the end of that game.
Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to do. Every round was at least, if I didn't perform, I was in there preparing a trick. That was like my best round. That was my strategy. Is like every time, throw a trick out.
Yeah, I think that's correct. You need to be either performing or setting up if you can't perform every round.
Yeah, the games where I scored the best, I performed every round except maybe the first. I think I didn't perform. That's where pretty much every round I had at least one dude going to the workshop to set it up every round, my magician performing every round, and then one of my assistants setting it up, usually the assistant to get the fame bonus every round. Mm-hmm. So usually I only had like one extra dude either going to the market or doing other stuff. Once I got this is pretty much like turns 4 through 7 usually. You know, the first 3 rounds are a little more flexible. But, you know, usually I had like those 3 guys locked in every round from about 2 on. performing, setting up, and preparing, and then usually one or two other guys doing other stuff, and that scored me a shitload of points. Just trying to perform every round, and that goes back to needing minimum components, so you don't have to keep going back to the market. Needing minimum dues, you don't have to go back to the, and performing every turn, you get a shitload of money, so you never really have to go to the downtown to get money. So really, it's all minimizing going elsewhere and just focusing all on the theater, and that's when I did the best, really.
Yeah. Also, something that we didn't bring up because it's kind of a noob thing. I know I screwed it up though several times. Is look at what everyone else played on their workers, where they are going.
Oh, I 100% did that every time.
I know. I did.
That's the first thing I did.
I did not catch on. Look at where their magician is going. If the magician is going to the theater, you know they're performing. If it is not, you know they're just setting up that round. If you are in first pick, first player. Yeah, first player. You can send a scumbum to do a 3-thing action, but look and see if anyone else is going there. Because if no one else is, if you need to go downtown to get cash out of the bank, if no one else played downtown, well then take that first round to go somewhere else to get a better position somewhere else.
Where everyone else is going definitely determines where you want to try and jump on first.
Yeah,
because there are some rounds I put together like, man, if this doesn't all fall into place, this round is going to suck. But if everything falls into place, then this is going to be great. I'm going to get to hit the bank, learn a new trick on the same spot by spinning a shard. I'm going to get to go here and buy these last 2 components I need for said trick. I'm going to go get to set up the trick in the workshop and get the shit set up on the stage. If everything goes right. And that all depends on what everyone else is doing. So that's the first thing I look at. All right, can I get to this place early enough to do what I need to make this work?
Yeah.
And it's really important to see where everyone else is going to know if you can hold something off for a round or two. Because sometimes you gotta get to the workshop early enough to get the trick set up. You gotta get to the theater with somebody else to get that trick set up. I mean, you gotta plan your whole round and then hope everything falls into place. And you can easily screw that all up with one misplacement or one action out of turn that you didn't realize. Oh shit, he's gonna jump here. I only have access to the ones. Now I don't have enough actions to do what I need to do in the theater. I don't have a shard. I can't use shards there. That kind of thing.
Yeah, you have to plan you also have to plan it around what position you're in too in player order, because let's just say in later rounds in like 4 through 7, somebody's performing at least that round besides you, if not everybody else. So if you're not the second player and you're like the third player, you're just gonna that you need something else first, and you're probably not going to get that Sunday spot, you're going to have to play around with that. But if you're the first player and you want that Sunday spot, you better put your magician over there immediately. Otherwise, you're not going to get the Sunday spot with the +1/+1 bonuses.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, also try to stave off putting your guys setting up tricks, depending on your strategy. If you don't have any thing to put down, stave off putting your guys in the backstage of the venue of the stage, so you can reschedule. Rescheduling is viable, and it's something that we didn't do too much.
No,
but rescheduling can come in clutch. It can deny points. It can set up a link for you. Possibly you don't get the bonus for it, but you get the fame for it whenever if you perform.
Yeah.
So just look out for that stuff for rescheduling. If you think you don't not take an action. If you have actions there, do something. If you're in the marketplace, make your stuff cost less or order something. Just to hate order people. If you have extra actions, hate order something, component.
That's something else about the market. Once that the ordering selection gets filled, no more orders can be made.
Yeah, that's just a quick order. That's the only one that's going to clear out same round. Anything else, once it's in place, it's in place.
But quick order costs you 2 and costs you an additional coin per thing that you buy.
Yeah, you need that round to want to quick order something. Otherwise, just order it. Unless it's the there's no open slots in the order, then in case shit you got to.
And I don't know how often it came up in our games, but there's all those resources are finite. So I mean, you could get some situation where you need to order something and it's not available, or there's none left, or I mean, if you waited too long to get something and everyone else has kind of the same components, that I don't know how often that came up, but I know that was in the back of my mind a couple times. Where
Actually,
like, man, I gotta.
And the rules that they're not finite.
Oh, they're actually not.
No, you're supposed to proxy them in. You'd have to really all need the exact same shit in order to run out of something.
Yeah.
Especially like the tier 2 and 3s, because you don't need that many of them and very many tricks. But in the case that they do run out, but still, as far as the order is filling up, that's the one thing is there's only 4 slots.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's 12 different components that people are trying to put together. So if you need to get something and you need to have it next round, you better get there and get it ordered. Or you're not going to have the opportunity. You're going to be waiting another round or paying a lot more than you intended to get it early.
I will say this: if you go downtown, isn't that where the bank is?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not so good to roll the dice. Maybe if you have an extra action there, you don't use it.
Well, if you have an extra action and the dice is on 6 and someone else is going downtown, hey, just roll it.
Yeah, but that's only if it's like on 6. Otherwise, you have a chance of giving them a 6. Especially from the bank. I think you have better odds of like blanking out the dice that gives like either an assistant, a mechanic, or an engineer, or a what's her name?
Manager?
Manager.
Manager assistant?
Because it's only 1 on each side and then 3 X's.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I never hired anybody else, because the shit was never available in a lot of our games.
So be careful. The dice may be again. Cardboard karma may be coming for you.
Yeah.
I know how that works. Any other thoughts on these strategies, or just anything overall?
One other general strategy that I found good is, especially even in the dark alley, even using magician powers, blow your shards aggressively. I found like every turn almost I was using a shard for something, even when we had magician powers that were powered up by the shards. Just any chance you get shards and get them back, I was recycling shards every turn. I think especially in the early game where you're just scratching and clawing to get fame up to 16, just use shards every chance you get, and that benefited me a lot.
Usually you can make an extra action worth more than the 1 point that shard is going to be at the end of the game.
Exactly.
I think that was part of my problem. I didn't blow them enough. I valued them a lot more.
I use them especially in the workshop, where I was trying to set up multiple spells on the same turn to try and perform multiple spells on the same turn, and just only having 2 actions in a workshop. If you just send an apprentice there, just ain't getting it done. You got to have at least 3. And that's where the Dark Alley bonus workshop cards would come into play too. Is just having those extra workshop actions for me was one of the biggest constraints. And using shards there, I use tons of shards in the workshop.
Yeah,
just preparing extra spells.
I had the mechanicer who gets to give an extra action point to one of his apprentices. They usually went to the workshop because I know I had a trick that took 2 action points to prepare. And then hell, sometimes I'm trying to get both of those prepared before I go to set up with, say, a manager or an assistant.
Right.
Trying to get those actions there, I need to get hopefully 2 tricks set up, create that link, and I need to do it all on 1 turn. So, yeah, liberal use of shards with Dark Alley especially is recommended.
Yeah,
it's going to be worth more than the point.
Yeah, I think the one game where I just blew everyone away, we played Dark Alley. I had 0 shards left for any of them. I never used any magician powers aside from those 2 early ones that I kept. And at the end of the game, I had spent like 20 shards just all on actions.
Get 2 fame for sitting in your chair.
Yeah.
What the shit? Or 2 fame for not changing your plans for the round.
Yeah, exactly.
Ridiculous. Those magician powers are ridiculous. We'll get to those in a second. Nothing else.
Yeah. Let's talk about those magician powers.
Okay, so we're going to go just other thoughts on the game. We'll start with those magician powers. We don't have any here, but one of them that Matt brought up was if you had the ability, if after everybody revealed where everybody's assignment card, everybody revealed their assignment cards, and everybody knew where everybody was going. You could rearrange your assignment cards and in any order, right?
Hmm?
You could
Yeah.
actually just like trade them out. And if you didn't do that, you got 2 fame.
No,
And-
there's just one fame.
Oh, just one.
It was
fame?
still good.
Yeah.
I mean, just having that ability to rearrange shit is pretty damn strong in itself. Even though I never use it, because I mean, if you plan it out right, you don't have to use it. But yeah, this is a free fame around, which in the early game is huge.
There's a lot.
It's a lot in the late game.
And there wasn't there something else in the same game that was also giving you fame
Yeah.
just pretty much every round. I can't
Yeah,
remember
it
which
had,
one it was.
It gave me, what was it? I think you could pay. Oh, it's just every time you advertise, you gain 2 extra fame, no matter what. So it made the. So no matter what, if you advertise every round, that was just 14 free fame just for playing the game, basically. Because even when I was at, most of the game I was in the 4 spots where I had to pay 4 coins. And even that makes that an efficient investment because it's 1 coin per fame.
Yeah. The conversion ratio was much better than
Yeah.
the 3-for-1 you're getting at the end.
So it's probably the best conversion rate in the game because it's literally just 1 coin per fame. That's all it was. So yeah, they're both tier 1, so you have them immediately and you have them the entire game.
I never got to play with those.
Yeah.
And the other games I had some shitty ass power, so it balanced out. But
I had some good ones. I got the cut purse 2
Twice.
games in a row.
yeah, that was a good one.
So I didn't mind going 3rd or 4th because usually 2 placements and I'm paying for my entire crew. Not bad. I know I had one tier 3 that really helped out where I got to perform an additional time. I think like after all performances were done, I got to do another. It's like a grand finale or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And it caused a huge swing because I had just tier 2 and 3 tricks scattered about. I was like, I don't care where I get to choose because it's going to be good for me no matter what. But yeah, I'd say going forward, I'd prefer not to play with them most of the time, just because of the different variants and just kind of the luck factor of which ones you get. And I mean, you've got one, or you can easily get 2 out round 1 and 2 if you're not spending your shards. You start out with the 3. So you've got 2 online from the get-go, and if you've got a combination like match or something else that's just feeding you fame every round, and you just see that person's token jumping way ahead of you, and oh shit, now they're tier 2.
Yeah.
You're still scraping by to pay your shitty-ass workers. The combinations, I guess, or just the variants could be a little more than needed.
Yeah, there's no way for the other players to counter them, too, because they're random. I mean, like cut purse. Fuck cut purse. Tired of it.
Man, yeah, cut purse sucks. I mean, it's like it staves you if you don't have the money to pay your guys. It staves you off from that +2 spot,
Yeah.
and it just leaves it for the guy who's got it.
Yeah. I guess the biggest benefit of that is it like guarantees that you get that +2 spot pretty much every time.
Yeah, I made use of it. I don't
However, it's funny as hell when you don't have no money and you can't pay him.
yeah, that too.
But yeah, I think overall, I didn't like using the higher tier powers just because I would rather spend shards and other stuff. So I just never, unless if there's just some extremely busted card that's on your tier 3 and 4 spots there, I just didn't see much of a reason to go for them. But I don't know.
I don't know. I had one. I had like the worst draw of everybody. I think one time, the last game that we played, there's a card for every magician, for the magician powers, and they're random. So when I looked at my cards, I had 3 of them, but none of them were mine. So you get what is it, a total of 8 cards?
Yeah, you get dealt out 4 from each tier. So you get dealt out 12, and you keep 8.
Yeah.
Okay, so from that tier, whatever, which was probably tier 1s, I had 1 card I could keep. I mean, that's just how that worked for me. But like, I had one that was really strong. I forget exactly what it did, but it could be put in. You didn't have to pay the money for bigger tiered. Like, I could get a 36 magician power without having paid a 36 price if I'm like at level 1. But of course, that didn't work at level 1. You had to have it at least at level 3. But I never really got to use that except once, and it was already way too late in the game. It didn't help me at all. So I'm in the camp of Foot Magician powers.
Yeah. Well, I'd also say that if we played a lot more games of this, eventually I would want to throw them in and try and see what else you can put together. But just with my limited experience with them, I'd probably leave them out for most plays.
You know what? If you're going to play with them, draft them.
That'll be another
That could be good.
another good twist. Yeah.
Because that's going to eliminate somebody getting stuck with all the magician power cards, number one, and somebody not being able to get the cut purse every time, or the fame for advertising, or just the list goes on and on. You know, it could maybe you can't counter it, but maybe you can find a balance.
Yeah. Unless you just get extremely unlucky, everyone's going to have at least a few good powers that they can utilize in the game.
That's a good suggestion.
Should have tried that.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it until now. Thank you, Magic. Was there anything you guys didn't like? Me as magician powers, but that was only because how they were, distributed.
Not really. Otherwise, I love the game.
Yeah, the game was
I
really
probably always play it with Dark Alley now going forward.
Yeah.
Only if I was teaching somebody the game would I ever go back to just the basic setup. And I think once you've played just one game, you should have I'll say 2 games. One to learn it and to screw up placing your assignment cards to realize how important that shit is. 2 to see how much better you could do now that you understand what you're trying to do in order to score and how tight every round is. Because, man, 5 rounds is, just when you start to get stuff going, the game's over. You feel like you're about to get that engine put together, and here's in-game scoring.
Yeah.
It just feels so short. So the rounds were so tight there.
Sorry about that. We had technical difficulties with the line where you've heard some static while we've been recording. And, that would have helped.
Were you off?
Yeah. So we had some technical difficulties. You hear some static earlier, and we don't know if it's a thunderstorm or what's happening, so we had to pause and try to fix it.
Yeah, it's the learning curve of new audio equipment after 10 episodes of recording with a USB mic in the middle of the room.
So bear with us. We're going to try to start again with where we left off. Jeremy was talking about rounds. Tight rounds.
So 5 rounds is really not a whole lot of time to get your engine going and put together. So, yeah, I was just saying that normally, if you're not teaching a player how to play the game, then you've got to play Dark Alley, man. You got to get 7 rounds. You got to get to tier 3. It's just the way to go.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if look, the game's not complicated, but what is complicated is the scoring. And while I don't think Dark Alley adds all that much, maybe you could just throw it in on them if they're not noobish.
No, I think you gotta do it without Dark Alley because it just adds extra stuff.
That's true.
Really the core game doesn't change with Dark Alley. It just makes it a little bit longer, adds a few different options every turn, and a few different. Especially if you play with the magician power, that's quite a bit. But
and some restrictions because no longer can you just go nonstop shard combo to boost up at the different spots.
And scoring changes quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only complaint with the game, and it's a very minor complaint, and a lot of other games have it, is a better handout is needed. Like, I don't know how many times I had to constantly reference the book to get my actual magician power or my roll power, and then just having all those laid out would be better. I love the way they do it with the spells, but they need a little more than that.
You know what the sad part about that is that unless you in that only a Kickstarter thing, the spell book.
I don't know.
I think they have a PDF of it, at least. You could print
they
it
do,
out.
But it doesn't come with the game.
Oh, yeah.
No, that'd be rough.
I could be wrong, though.
Yeah, if that's the case, it definitely needs a better handout. If not everyone's playing with that.
Yeah, you definitely need that.
I'm not sure if that's exclusive or not, or I'm not sure if it's part of the... what was the Kickstarter version is basically the core game and Dalgard's, whatever that expansion was that was released after the fact. I'm not sure if those were part of that, or if Dalgard is only like the magician powers and like some more prophecy tokens or something. I'm not sure because all I've got to go off of is the Kickstarter version, which was the deluxe. But I'm not sure if they're in the core game or not. But yeah, they're definitely needed. Even before the game even begins, you've got to be flipping through those tricks and seeing what you're trying to put together. So
Yeah. That's something else. Maybe you should take like 10 minutes before you start the game to actually flip through some of that stuff, even after it's explained.
yeah, I mean they have some like introductory setups. So again, if you're teaching a new player, they tell you choose this magician because it doesn't have a unique ability. Choose this assistant or this secondary person. Choose this trick. I mean, they tell you your entire starting setup, and they're supposed to be balanced, I guess you would say. So yeah, if you're learning the game, and they do have some recommendations, and then you can kind of see why they would pair these things together for a new player. But
Bless you.
man, you just cut off before the butt. That's,
But yeah.
I think the theming of this game is what originally sold me on it. I think it's
It's
pretty
deep.
unique theme. It's pretty cool. I think the worker placement type stuff, building an engine type stuff in the games is neat. I would recommend this game.
This game is neat.
But yeah, I like the theme. The theme, when Jeremy told me about this game, I was like, I need to play this.
yeah, like you
Yeah.
got a game where you're a magician performer. Yeah, I've got one of those. Let's play. that week we played it, and then it was decided we'd be doing an episode on it sometime.
Mhm.
Took a while to do the episode on it, but
Yeah.
I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
It was a good
It's,
excuse to get a lot more plays of it in because it's kind of a longer game. I think in the future, the long games are going to be kind of spaced out for the episodes because it took a long while just to get the plays in.
Yeah, I did.
We're only doing
yeah.
one per night, and then even then we're pushing it to midnight.
Yeah, it
sometimes.
was like what 3-hour games when
Yeah.
when you started Dark
Three,
Alley.
Well, we got to have that hour and a half magic talk
Oh
before.
yeah, we got.
Yeah. Well, that and the setup to this game is extreme.
Yeah.
It's got some setup and tear down to it.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, just your beginning player setup. There's a lot of decisions to be made before any kind of play ever starts. So
Yeah.
there's some setup to it. I think the payoff is worth it though.
It
I mean,
is.
it's
Oh, it
definitely-
is.
It's definitely a unique experience as far as because it's not just straight worker placement.
Right.
Everything boils down to that assignment round.
Dude.
Everything in the game revolves around getting those 3 or 4 or 5 cards in the right place and being able to play them out the following round.
Yeah, this is one of the tighter games I play, is to where you got to set up everything exactly right, and it's got to play out exactly like you think, and you got to double and triple check. You make sure you got it all set up first, or the whole round just falls apart. The whole game falls apart.
Yeah.
So I mean, like every little action you do matters, and it's just such a tight game once you get into it.
Yeah.
And like Zach said, the theme is great. To me, if you like the movie The Prestige, to me it felt like a lot like that, where you do you see all the backstage stuff, you got the intrigue, you got all the manipulating with the market and interacting with other people. So I mean, it felt like the movie a little bit, playing that great theme.
The things I liked about it were the action points on the workers. That's great. The what do you call it? Assignment cards? The worker assignment. Beautiful. Love that. I liked everything. I mean, like I said, I'm not a fan of worker placement games. Love this one. Love those two aspects alone make this so unique that it's great, and the theme shines through. I'm usually not a big theme guy either. It doesn't really make a shit to me.
Yeah, I got sold on the theme because there's not very many themes that you're not going to find in board gaming.
Yeah.
You can find some oddball shit out there, but there really isn't a whole lot about like the actual setting up and performing a magic show and that being like the entire thing of the game. And it sold me on it. It made me go and watch The Prestige and The Illusionist. That's how excited I was for this Kickstarter. And it's one of those few that we've talked about this before where Kickstarters were kind of duds.
Yeah.
They got to play in and they sat around, or you finally got them. There's some I've gotten I haven't even played. It's like, I can't wait to get this game. 6 months later, I don't give a shit anymore. But this one I was definitely excited about, and it did not disappoint. I highly recommend it to anybody who enjoys any variance of worker placement, programming. I mean, the assignment card really is, it's programming is what it is. It doesn't all have to, I mean, you've got some options after you've programmed, but they're very limited options. You've got this spot you're going to, and that's the only place you're going. Your other option is don't go there. So
Yeah.
it really is a programming aspect of it, and it's just the way everything ties in together, very solid game. Couldn't recommend it more.
Yeah, so if you take nothing else away from this, then other than our review of it, go pick it up or at least play it.
Is it still available pretty widely?
I haven't shot a board game.
I don't know how big of a. I mean, I know it's Kickstarter, but
It's
I don't
not
know
on
how.
TCG Player.
Oh, really? I don't know how big of a print run it really got besides the Kickstarter.
It did pretty well.
Well, let's just see.
Need some Jeopardy music right now.
Yeah, that's why I got sucked into that cool stuff order just because that.
Oh, the Memorial Day.
Yeah, they didn't have a whole lot, but the Flick 'em Up expansion was half off. So I was like, ah, man, I gotta
They're
go
out
and
of
get it.
stock. At least on cool stuff.
So first print probably gone.
Yeah, I guess so.
Maybe even
I bet
second.
you could probably find it on Board Game Geek, whatever their
Their
marketplace.
yeah. You can always. That's a great place to go for games in general.
Or Fun Again Games. They like to price gouge you.
Looks like you got $100 on Amazon.
Oof. Well,
€60, $70 from Canada. Hopefully they get another print run.
yeah.
'Cause I do not recommend buying a game at net price.
We take back everything. Don't buy this.
Go out and buy it in like 4 months. Don't look right now.